Okay, good morning, everybody, and time to call this meeting of the Municipal Airport Authority, City of Fargo to order on this Tuesday, June 25. Roll call, please.
Bird.
Here.
Osborne.
Here.
Beckman.
Here.
Captain.
Here. Motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting held June 11, 24.
So moved.
Motion been made, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Approved the airport vouchers totaling $315,029.65.
Mr. Chairman, I move. So moved. To
Motion's
approve.
been made, is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, roll call please.
Bird.
Yes.
Osborne.
Aye.
Beckman.
Aye.
Captain.
Aye. Approve individual vouchers A through H.
So moved.
Motion's been made, is there a second? Roll call please.
Bird.
Aye.
Beckman.
Aye.
Captain.
Aye. Number 5, receive May financial statement update cash flow projection. I Bailey.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Can everybody see the board package screen?
Mr. Chairman, on our record, we show, Dean as being present.
Yes.
Okay, everybody can see the income statement up there?
Can you make it a little bigger?
A little bigger.
I can see it, but I can't read it.
Okay. How about there?
Little, well, can everybody else read it?
To make it a little bit bigger, but I think it's
Yeah.
fine.
All right, that's about as big as I can get without it going off the screen.
Got it.
Okay, all right, well, we got balance tax and accounting, they finished up May, so we were able to touch base a little bit on the May financials for this month. Things are still looking good, there is not any surprises. The first item on there you're gonna notice is the interest, and the interest revenue is way over budget, which it's not any big surprise, you're gonna see that the rest of the year. Right now, we're getting interest rates on 5% and a little bit higher when we budgeted probably 2 to 3%. So the interest is over budget. A couple of other things to mention. The Jet Center is a little bit over budget, which is great. The rental of the expansion area is still over budget, and that falls under right here, and that is due to the farmland income. We received that early, and that was paid in May, so that'll even itself out the rest of the year. Some other items in the revenue to mention, the car rental revenue is slightly behind projections. But not, it's hard to see here. Let's see, the car rental is behind projections. Nothing that I'm concerned about at this point. The building rental as a whole is still only 5% down.
Trina,
Oh,
excuse me.
but so where was the car rental? You were bouncing around on that screen, it's hard for us to.
Yeah, it's under the rental fees, in building rentals. So because we just kind of give the highlight. So if you drill down into under the rental fees, down into the building rentals, that's where we see all of the different types of building rentals. And the car rentals are a little low, for the revenue. But not a big concern, because your building rentals overall are 5%. But another item to mention though, that the parking is actually up 11.5% right now. So I don't see any concerns there. Just a couple other items to touch on as far as expenses. We briefly touched on them before. The salaries are slightly lower. That's due to a budgeted position that we don't have filled yet. Employee benefits are still low because we have one position not filled. Although health insurance, if we would drill down, health insurance is a little higher than projected, but that's due to the employee changes from single to family and stuff, which health insurance plan they take. We have the snow removal equipment. That came in a little bit early, so that'll catch up as the year goes on. We have the chemicals for the airfield is slightly higher than projected, and that's due to a number of ice events that we've had this year. And all of those exact details that I'm pointing out, you can find in your board packets in what balance tax and accounting provided. They provided some really in-depth details in their pages. But those are the only things on the income statement that are noteworthy. Are there any big concerns on there? No, not whatsoever. So if we just take a quick look at the overall dashboard of how everything is sitting. Our cash balances are sitting really nice right now. As we discussed last time, we're not investing them right now. Right now, the investment rates versus the money market rates are minimal. They're within 0.1%. And so we're thinking it's better to keep that cash liquid for the time being. We keep monitoring it. I keep checking in with First International Bank and PFM just to make sure where their investment rates are. And if they start going up at all, we'll take a closer look at getting some of those funds invested. Operating cash is still sitting really good. We start to see the dip in the cash in Q2 2025. That's when the cash starts to fall because that's when major construction hits. Operating days cash is still holding steady. That Q2 2025 is kind of our high time for expenses. Our investment balances here, don't let the title fool you. That is the PFM investments, but as we cash them out, we're keeping them in the savings account, and we still kind of hold them separately in the savings account on our books. So the way our forecast is planned out, we do not see us using the money that we're cashing out. We don't see us using that money until Q3 of 2026. But as I said, it's all within the savings account. Here's just a quick couple looks here that I wanted to show. As we get into the terminal and parking breakdown, I wanted just to give you guys just a high-level overview as to what the options are for the terminal right now. There's so many different grants out there that are guaranteed, discretionary, and competitive. And so this first one right here this is the terminal if we only got the competitive grants, if we only got the guaranteed grants that are out there. So if we only got guaranteed grants versus our expenses, we would be needing about $112 million to figure out how we are going to fund the terminal. So that is worst case scenario, which we know is not going to happen because we know some of these competitive and discretionaries will come in. So very best case scenario would be, what if we got all of the grants that we have budgeted? If we did that, we would only be needing $35 million, which we have right now in our savings account. So that is if we got every discretionary and competitive grant at full value. Excuse me. I'm thinking the best option to look at and to focus on would be this one. The terminal, if we figure all of the guaranteed money for the terminal, and if we got 50% of the discretionary and competitive grants that we have planned out there, what if we just got 50% of those? Well, then it comes out to be that we would need about 73 million that we would have to fund for. And we know we have about the 35 in our savings, so we would still be looking at 35, 36 million that we would have to finance for. So we had the best case scenario, we had the worst case scenario, and I think this is kind of the middle of the road one that is probably the most realistic at this time. There is so many different grant fundings out there, discretionary and competitive. There's 38 million sitting out there that we don't have answers to yet. If we take a look at the parking expenses, so the parking expenses along with, I figured in the Bank of North Dakota loan. So the Bank of North Dakota loan is 40 million. The parking expenses at this point are 42 million. So we will have to find the 2 million to fund the parking. So those are kind of your overall high-level views of where the terminal and parking sit and what we're looking at from our view when we evaluate the forecast every month. Does anybody have any questions on that at all?
Mr. Chairman, so I really appreciate this, Tana, and I appreciate the way you've laid this all out. I think this kind of sets the stage for going forward. And I would suggest that we just use this chart, the terminal 100% guaranteed, 50 discretionary and 50 competitive, kind of as we go forward and you continue reporting.
Okay.
That would be helpful. I think the other thing that you said immediately is you said there were no surprises. And so I think I appreciate your perspective as you look at that monthly and year-to-date cash flow, just kind of where we are. I think we don't necessarily need to drill down into all the detail, but I'm thinking maybe at the end of June, we should maybe look at a possibly revised forecast. So you're not every meeting saying interest rate is higher than we projected. You know, we're gonna keep the same budget and that's what we're gonna base it off. But I think, you know, once we have a better look at where things are in the first 6 months, maybe revise the forecast and tighten it up a little bit. So then it's easier for us to pick out any changes in the last 6 months of the year.
Okay, well, you're talking about the cash forecast, like for the capital projects and stuff, is that what you're referring to?
No, just the statement. And I mean, I can follow up with you later, but again, I think this is a great presentation.
Okay, just for a quick note then, as far as the cash forecast for the capital projects and the grants and all of the funding that are out there, I do that on a monthly basis. So I go in and make sure that, you know, everything is updated to actuals. So right now, everything is updated to actuals through the end of May, then we're forecasting out for June. And a couple of weeks ago, we got updated bids and stuff from McGow, and so we updated our forecast. So it's a very fluid, it's a very active model. We update it as often as we get information given to us. So it's 100% accurate at this time, to the best of our knowledge.
Mr. Chairman, Rick, are you talking just the overall budget, not doing like a 6 months actual, 6 months reforecast?
No, I was just talking on the first summary that you went through that showed January through May.
Okay, yeah. That is sometimes helpful, is take your actuals and then reforecast
Yeah.
based on what you've seen in the actuals through the 6 months. But in July, you'd have 7-month actual and a 5-month forecast, and you can readjust.
Yeah, I mean, I think from my perspective, Tana, if you just go down to the bottom line, you know, I would say, okay, we expected a net income of 2.7, we have a net income of 3.5. So that's obviously, am I reading that right?
You are.
Yeah, so I think, you know, from my perspective, that's kind of the key thing, looking at the year end, what we budgeted for net revenue this year. And we just wanna make sure that we're hitting that. If something comes up that says we're not gonna hit that, then I think it's for this board to say, okay, well, do we wanna make some changes? Make sure we hit that or not, rather than just, wait. So,
Sure, so as we look at the operating budget, we will put the information in the board packet, but I can just make a note just to hit on it quarterly. And if there's something that pops up in those in-between months that's a drastic change, I can just bring that up at that time.
yeah, no, that's fine. Mr. Chairman, I appreciate all the input people we have and you're looking at it. And I think as a board member, once we know what the forecast is or the revised forecast, we literally just wanna know if we're on track or off track, you know, every month.
And every month, every month is different. I mean, as the months go on, we are going to find out if we get the grant, not get the grant, how much, are we getting a portion of it? And so, yes, I will continue to update you on those statuses as well.
Okay, anything else? If not, we will go to number 6, receive update from Chief. Oh, yeah. Motion to receive and file the financial statement update.
So,
Motion's been made, is there a second?
James.
Motion's been made and seconded, roll call please.
Shrunny,
Yes.
Brother.
Yeah.
Osborne.
Aye.
Aye. Number 6, receive update from TL Strode.
We're moving right along. You can see that we're taking out asphalt right now and preparing for foundation work. In the background, we're having meetings almost twice a week on shop drawings and checking out things and seeing if we missed anything. So we're fine tuning all the precast especially, and we're getting in shop drawings for other things, so it's just a lot of work on the background of what's going on, because basically starting our first GMP bid package and getting that rolling, so we're underway and full steam ahead.
Okay, any
We're gonna have on
questions?
here, discuss additional vehicle lane in front of passenger terminal.
Yeah, that came up in our last construction meeting, Paula was talking about that, and we think it would be a good idea, we just don't know if, right now, we still have this Skyway to bid, so we're thinking we might have to wait a little while before we see how the numbers really come out, and obviously, you guys gotta decide if we wanna do it. In some respects, it makes a lot of sense to booger it up one time instead of coming back, 5 years later doing it. So there's just that, it's gonna be a dollar and cents thing. And, it might have even something to do with, your grants and what kind of money you're getting in.
I think, Mr. Chairman, I agree, we wanna know what that is.
Yeah. We have an estimate right now, Rick, of roughly $900,000
I would separate the dollars from really the functionality.
Yeah.
And really, is this something that engineers and architects recommend we expand or not?
We like the idea, we like the idea of having the road. We think it makes a lot of sense. It's just, it cleans up a lot of things, unfortunately, it does make it easier for us to do some utilities, because we just get rid of the trees because they have to. and what his plan was, but, from a functionality standpoint, I mean, long term, I think that you're gonna wanna do it at some point, and just a matter of if we do it now or, you know, and again, you got, you know, we're right now, the best way to say it is, well, we're $3 million under budget, maybe, of money we don't have. So,
Let me just say this, so that's not in the scope of the plan right now?
not right now.
Okay, so then if we're going to add that, you need direction from us to say, yes, we're gonna do it or not.
Yeah, no, and that would be something that, you know, we could conceivably go down the path, so we've got it kind of designed in our overall site plan, so it's
So it's
there.
not gonna change
We
the
know it's
location
there.
or ramp or anything like that.
Right, we don't have the details to build it yet, and so that would be another thing we could do to expedite it, would be to do the design work for it and get it designed so we can bid it and have an actual number.
I can't imagine us not doing it. It sounds like everyone's on the same page. And it seems ill-advised to wait to do it until after the project. It's going to get more expensive, more complicated, and cause more disruption. So personally, I'd be supportive, not strongly encouraging, of designing it, getting ready to do it. The tree doesn't at all, you know, we run out of money, but we're not gonna wish we had done it later. That it's later is all the reason why we should.
We would agree with that, just because of all the damage we're gonna do to that area anyway. And then it'd be done all at one time, but, again, we're just trying to be respectful to the dollars that we're supposed to be, you know. The ramp was the priority and blah, 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 but
Yeah, and I'm not
I think it would be a great idea to,
Absolutely designing it, being ready.
I think we should design it and bid and at least then that way, like you said, we can have a kind of an add-on into it. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Is there a motion to that effect?
Well, I'm not sure what we need, but, I mean, do we need a motion to do that? I guess I'm like.
We need a motion to,
Let me just back up,
design.
let me just make a statement, so, I know everyone's dialed into everything, but at the end of the day, we want this to be functional, we want it to look nice. We don't want people coming here and saying, holy crap, I can't get through to the lane or not. If we do that, we've all made a mistake here. So no matter who's on this course, if there's some common sense things that need to be addressed, we expect those to come to us, or to the staff or somewhere, so we can make that decision. So I'm just, you know, kind of overall, so I guess I would say, if you're looking for a motion, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we, incorporate the design of another additional vehicle lane.
Can I,
Is there a second?
Mr. Chair?
There was a
So,
second and then discussion.
Second, then the discussion.
but before we make a second,
Can't speak on unless. we have
Can't
a
discuss it until you make a second.
Second.
Okay, no,
Okay, motion been made and second.
okay, so I think that what Terry has planned in is a berm in 2 lanes, so that if you have 1 lane, it'll bottleneck. If you have 2 lanes, then you can have a hotel van or a cab or a Uber park, and you still have the ability to get around. And I also wanted to mention safety issues, like, it's not just bottlenecking, it's also safety. So I would say, if you could amend the motion to 2 lanes.
That's what it's designed in right now, so we always thought that when we.
Yeah.
I'm
And it's basically
misunderstanding
all
what
we
we're
can
talking
do.
about.
We add as much.
Okay, so you're designing 2 and this would add a 3rd.
No, so right now, the way it is, our roadway in front of the airport does not change, okay? And then the alternate that we're talking about is 2 more lanes closer to the ramp that would come in. So we'd add 2 lanes to what we have today.
And we have 3 lanes today.
We have, I think, 4.
So we go to 6. But in the, I think the agenda just says 1 lane. It discusses additional vehicle.
I'm sorry.
In the agenda here, it implies a single lane.
Yeah, it's not, I mean,
So just so I'm clear.
it's 2 lanes.
It'd obviously be good to have a visual here, so we know what we're talking about. So, I mean, so you're saying the same thing,
Yeah, we've showed it to you before, so it's 2 lanes, right along, basically, we have about a 3-4 foot.
So that's your
median in
recommendation, is that
between
we
the
add
2
2 lanes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
With a separate.
With an island that separates them.
so what was the motion?
Well, the motion was to incorporate the design of an additional vehicle lane.
So I'd say additional 2 lanes?
Yeah.
I would make that motion. Give the
You
second.
accept that motion?
Absolutely second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, just one question, the Skyway, which project is that going with, that's going with part of the garage?
The Skyway goes into the terminal when we.
Right, but.
Yeah.
You're gonna design it.
We're doing the Skyway right now, yeah, so we're hopefully
Yeah,
having
yeah,
that on the
it's
street
parking
next
or-
month, what?
Is it bid part of the parking at the terminal?
No, it's been separately, it's a separate bid.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
It's just having 2 lanes.
Number 7, receive them.
Mr. Chairman.
Plus and then.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Greg Pearson is on.
SB Plus update regarding Shetland Valley service.
Morning, everyone. Just wanted to reach back out and give you an update since we last talked and since you last approved the shuttle and valet services for the airport. So we're looking at a target start date of August 1st for the valet operation. We've already started to kind of coordinate with the Flint Group, Kelsey Miller, and so forth with putting together correspondence and making sure that the correspondence that we send out to the reservation customers is cohesive as well across the board. So you'll see some messaging through social media channels. Also, reservation customers will start to get email blast about the service coming up August 1st. They'll have the opportunity to pre-book their valet experience ahead of the start date, if you will. So we'll start to get that information out 30 days out prior to the launch date. With respects to shuttle services, we've started to engage different shuttle vendor companies, if you will, that offer leases and things of that nature. We've also recently engaged another airport that actually has some shuttles that they're looking to decommission at this point as well, to see if we can get some savings there as well, since it is just a seasonal or short-term shuttle service that will be operating for the temporary line. So that's where we are with both of those services. I'll definitely have some more information closer to August 1st, but we're on target. We've started our recruiting efforts. Everything is very promising from that standpoint. We have staff and individuals that are eager to get started and going with us on this endeavor, and we're really excited about it moving forward. One other item I'd like to comment on, and this was something that the board inquired about a couple months ago, and that was a subsequent email closer to a reservation customer's arrival to the airport. We do have a draft that I will send out to the board later today for your review and just to look at and let us know if you have any questions or comments. But this is that email that you will receive 24 hours before you arrive to the airport. There's 2 iterations of it, but I'll send out both. And it's just a friendly reminder. A lot of times when you book so far in advance, you may misplace that original email that you received. And so this is just a way to re-engage and make sure you have what you need when you arrive to the airport, to make sure there's no missteps when you try to enter the parking lot. So those are my updates, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions?
Mr. Chair?
Bob?
Greg, remember we got the email from the customer who was commenting that they also appreciated getting the text from the Minneapolis airport? Is that something you're looking at as well?
We are looking at that as a phase 2 of this rollout, which this is ready to go. This required a little configuration in our customer relationship database, but yes, we are looking at the text option as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman, Greg, on the reserved parking, got a chance to drive through there today. There's a lot of open spaces there. I know you have to have a space that's open noticing when people are coming in with their reserved parking, but are you guys gonna kind of monitor that so that we don't have that large inventory? As people drive by reserved spots, they tend to get madder and madder the further they get away.
Sure, you caught this at the transition point. So we took away premium reserve when we lost the short-term lot because we lost, the first 3 rows of long-term. So now that we pushed back, we just reinstalled those signs that you see that say premium reserve. And so that's why you see cones or you see that they're vacant right now. We plan to put them back online so they can be reserved as early as next week, once we have it all cleared out. And so this is just that transition point. Once it's back online, you'll definitely see that the cars will be there for the most part because that's one of our most popular products as well.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any further discussion, Paul?
Mr. Chair, one more question. Greg, do you have any feedback since the last meeting regarding parking surveys? Are people experiencing challenges, or are they confused as they're experiencing what's happening right now?
Yeah, no feedback related to construction per se. We still have the continuous challenges of, not all QR codes are being read on the first or second attempt, if you will, which sometimes require a passenger to pull a ticket. We obviously definitely make sure we reimburse them and accommodate them for that misstep. But that's really just an ongoing thing. And I'll just be very candid with you. At every airport, it's not a Fargo issue. And some of it's user error, some of it is equipment. I'm not going to put it 100% on the customer, but some of it is user error. It's distance from the scanner. Or is your screen bright enough, if you will? And so part of that is we're working with our partner to figure out a way of it can automatically turn your screen up to the optimal brightness. That way, you don't have to do that as a passenger or a traveler, if you will. Because some of those things, when you're ready to travel, you're not thinking about doing those things when you approach the kiosk. You may have somebody behind you. You're not in that mode of making sure you check all the boxes, if you will. So we want to kind of take it out of their hands and do it ourselves. But to answer your question, nothing at this time related to construction or disruption through the surveys.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, Greg, are you in charge of the wayfinding signage in the parking lot, or is that
Yeah, we didn't put out any signage. We put out signage on the kiosk initially when we were closing short term, but nothing direction in the lot.
As you walk in from the parking lot, Mr. Berg and I turned at the construction gate and had to crawl across a couple pieces of machinery and scale the fence and come over to get back down on the other side.
Repairs was pretty easy.
But there wasn't the wayfinding signs walking in from the parking lot. I didn't think were as accurate or as numerous as could be. I don't know if that's you or McGough.
That must be McGough. Again, we talked and we discussed different signage options along the way. I'm not sure, Sean, if you know exactly who put those signs out, but yeah, we did discuss signage as a group. But I don't recall us putting out any signs once we put them by.
Okay. Yeah, I just think we need to improve that because people are going to walk in a straight line towards the terminal. They have to go either direction. So Rick and I got a little ways into the construction site.
You didn't know which way to go?
No, we were told to get our hard hats, then we were late.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, thank you. Now we'll go to the update of the temporary parking lot.
I guess I'll defer to McGough. We have our plans done. No, the plans are done. They're in McGough's hands. They're just in the process of getting bids for the work, so.
We have plans, we're reviewing them, as we get through them, we work through them, and then we'll get them out to subcontractors for bidding. Get a timeline together.
Okay. Any questions? Pardon? Yeah. can go to number 7. Okay, receive update from Mead and Hunt regarding passenger terminal and modification project.
Up on the screen, yeah. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, so you probably see a lot of work over there, over on the addition side, but it's mostly, you won't see anything coming out of the ground for a while, except dirt. So they're putting the rammed aggregate piers in. So you're probably seeing that equipment work its way around. And that's gonna be going on for a while. So, that, as far as the next couple weeks, that's about what you're gonna see. July 1st is our groundbreaking, so at 10 a.m. So we're hoping for good weather. And budget-wise, just we have our Monday check-ins as well with McGuff, Hannah, Tom, the whole group, and everything looks good on that end too. We're tracking here. So that's about it for the terminal right now. Any questions on progress?
Any questions? If not, we'll go to number 8 for Mead and Hunt regarding the scope of work associated with coordination of advertising, art, and sponsorship for terminal building and parking ramp. Brandon?
Okay, yes, that comes back to me. So, yeah, the board has asked that we put together a scope of work that coordinates kind of everything. You have so much going on at the airport. A lot of balls in the air here, and you want to make sure that everything is coordinated. And so at the end of all these projects, they don't look disconnected. So we get that. We think we understood what you were asking for. So this what we put in front of you here is a scope of work that would coordinate the artwork, the sponsorships and advertising, exterior signage, the monument sign, the branding effort that Flint Group is doing, and then also the overall wayfinding of the terminal. And I can share my screen here just to kind of run through with you what you have in your packet. Can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. So I know contracts and scopes can get really detailed and get into minutia. So I made an effort to put together a summary sheet. And that's what's on the cover there, is just kind of giving you what I would anticipate just the average person or board member would be interested in how it would work. So, for example, for the artwork, we would be charged with helping the airport put together art committee meeting an art committee. And then the board would approve that art committee recommendations, and then we would facilitate, take the lead on communication, scheduling, and timing of decisions and installation, and coordinate that all with the construction. The board would approve budgets for other artwork, and bringing an artwork consultant on board, procurement and installment of the artwork would be by that artwork consultant. So we also identify in each of these paragraphs, like who additional we would need on board, or who the responsibility would be. So sponsorship, we run through that, where the advertising agent would be leading the charge of the sponsorships. And then Mead and Hunt would coordinate, design those spaces with the sponsor. We would also look for support from the advertising agent in the sponsorship procurement based on the sponsorship packages we put together. Then advertising, same thing. We've already done a big portion of this effort just through design of the terminal, but we would take that on further by coordinating, well, what exactly they're going to be putting in, and maybe look for opportunities to seeing if some of those advertisers would like to tie their advertising to some community highlights. So we had that discussion with Clear Channel a bit. Exterior signage, this is the part where we would be taking on some design work. So we have this capability at Mead and Hunt. We have site sign planners that have done other airports, and that would be taking it from 19th Avenue and taking the experience from 19th Avenue all the way through, going into parking, going into long-term, short-term and economy lot parking, doing the drop-off, directions to rentals, the cell phone lot, like we would be looking at all that signage and wayfinding as a whole and come up with a plan and budget for that. The monument signage, we spoke to Indigo and looked at that signage and coordinating that work and what the sign will be with the branding, which is next on the list. And if there's opportunities to advertise, there's there's some legal limitations there, but those are the sort of things that we would help navigate through. And then the branding piece, we met with Flint Group to go through what was kind of a preliminary approval at the last board meeting on what the direction of the brand that the board that appealed to the board. And looking for, I mean, it's hard to keep all these creative people at bay here. They're pretty excited about it. But I mean, when you start talking about branding and opportunities to where we could put that brand, there is a lot of potential there. So it was a really good conversation. And then wayfinding, reviewing the overall wayfinding, as I said, to making sure it's continuous, intuitive, just makes sense. So those are the main elements. If you are interested in the details, and we get into further like definitions of amenity services and go through that in the next 8 pages. So any questions off the cuff on what we have here?
Questions?
Mr. Chair, Brandon, one of the questions I have is, you say like the designer shall arrange for artwork, advertising, exterior signage, furniture. So is that the art consultant? I mean, who? It seems like are you suggesting we hire another designer? Or is this Tanya? Or is this Gina?
That would be Gina. What line were you looking at, Paula?
Just under designer, like it says designer shall create detailed electronic format. Designers shall do purchase orders. So it seems like the designer's got a pretty broad range of duties. And then how does that coordinate with perhaps an art consultant?
So the designer would be Gina, would be the interior designer. kind of overarching everything. We would also have an artwork consultant on board. That artwork consultant, right now, the way we have it written, the intent is that the artwork consultant would be brought on board, contracting directly with the airport, and have recommendations for the art to be put in place. We would identify the opportunities on where those the locations for where the artwork would be, and then the artwork consultant would recommend pieces to be approved.
So the artwork consultant, in your scope is more just about procuring art instead of working with the designers to incorporate art in other ways?
No,
I'm a little confused because we've had Gina on board for all this time, so are you proposing that we expand Gina's duties at the airport with our project?
When it comes to coordinating all of these things, these were not in the original scope to coordinate exterior signs. We did go as far as advertising and artwork and identified locations for those, but we didn't choose artwork to put in. We didn't identify what type of advertising they're going to be putting in those locations. So with the artwork and advertising piece of it, that's the level of coordination that we would be doing as part of this effort. The sponsorship, we put together the sponsorship package. That was already above and beyond our original scope, but we put it together, and now that will be used to facilitate looking for opportunities for sponsorships.
Brandon, this is Rick. First of all, I appreciate you pulling this all together, because I think it's critical that these all work together and they're not isolated. I think whomever you bring in to help with the art, I think that's pretty clear. We want you to bring someone that can help coordinate that. I think what I hear you saying is we're also, some of the stuff I'm assuming was the original, under the original bid, and some is not, and so we need to sort that out maybe a little later. But I appreciate how you put this together, but I guess, again, so the question is, you would be the point person for all these functions, and if we move forward here, it would give you the ability to go out and reach out to other professionals that are gonna help with art or other things. Is that correct?
Right.
So,
and then we would provide our recommendation. So looking at, I think we already have been working with an artwork consultant. So there may be a process that the city was at Olin Consulting.
Mr. Chair, Ivy made a presentation on April 22nd by Olin Art Consulting, and I thought that we were going to move forward with an RFP 2 months ago.
Oh, sure, I think this is kind of encompassing that.
Mm-hmm.
I think as they move forward here, if they wanna simply hire someone to fill that piece or do an RFP for each of these pieces, they can do that. But that would then open it up to everyone. I mean, that's how I see this. I think that's why we went this route, to make sure that's all coordinated.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Burke, Brandon, another question would be, we already have Flint on a 3-year marketing, rebranding. Wouldn't we be a part of, instead of a seat at the table, wouldn't they, they're doing our advertising, they're doing our rebranding, brand refresh, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, if I understand you right, you're wondering if we would have a contract with them? And the answer is no. It would still be under the contract that you have right now, but, as far as like branding, that would be us coordinating, like we would be, getting the final brand, helping facilitate the timeline where a brand, the final brand needs to be, a decision needs to be made so we can have the signs ready for the parking structure and the drop-off areas. So, coordinating all that timing, the branding opportunities to put that brand on locations on potential different signs on the exterior. We even talked about opportunities even on the buildings to do that, or on the call letter sign that we had. So that's a big part of it, is infusing that brand once the final brand and logo is selected on the opportunities on where we can put that. So to answer your question, Flint Group, it would be under the contract that you already have with Flint Group. Looking at the only two items on here that you don't have under contract for, like Clear Channel, you have the sponsorships and advertising for already. It would be the artwork and the exterior signage in general. So you would be bringing on an artwork consultant, and then we would be helping out with the exterior signage, basically filling the gaps on what isn't covered from the parking structure.
I guess, Mr. Chair, I'm just concerned that we're paying twice for the same services, because Flint was gonna do a lot of this rebranding and refreshing with this 3-year marketing plan that they already put together, and we've talked about some of it seems like this is already something that was in the scope that we already approved. And so I was under the impression when Mr. Burke made the motion to get all this under one umbrella, that it would that we were talking about an advertisement for.
Well, I think, Mr. Chairman, this is your first stab at presenting this to the board. I mean, the key here is having it all coordinated. I do think, my first reaction to this is a little bit similar. I'm like, Flint is doing the brand. I kind of look to Flint to help kind of lead and oversee this whole thing. So at the end of the day, it all is tied in uniform, but it communicates that brand that we're trying to achieve. So I think maybe that's kind of the question. Who is our tenant rep are coordinating this, but who is your first point of contact? And I might look at Flint as being kind of that point of contact to need to establish their branding and follow through. But I think all these things, exterior signage, monument signage, artwork, it's all kind of, as we get that branding theme, needs to tie in somehow. And I think sponsorships as well.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Brandon, I know there's already been some work on the exterior signage. I think there was even a bid package, or so I'm wondering again, are we doubling up here, or when we start looking at exterior signage and those type of things, don't we already have part of this done?
No, the exterior signage, not in our scope outside the call letters. We put those call letters out in front of the new ticketing area.
I thought there was a signage package out for bid. Wayfinding and some of the things like that.
On the interior.
There was some exterior signs too, I recall seeing.
Not under our contract.
How are people going to get parking?
Mr. Chair, Brandon, we haven't seen the interior signage package.
I'm sorry, what? You haven't?
No, we haven't seen the interior signage package.
We walked through it at, one of the board meetings. I mean, if this, I don't know if this looks familiar, just popping it up here, but.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay,
We have the signage did in the RAM. Yeah, it's just basically, your, parking kind of stuff, it wouldn't have logos on it, it'd be like no parking or exit or, those kind of things, we got all that. And we actually are gonna be giving them some, we did some, Walker did some just concepts of stuff for the other parking lots, if at some point we wanna do those. And have, signage that actually would, also have counting in them, instead of just like so, that kind of stuff. But that's not in the scope of work.
So there was no signage on anything exterior, on scope of work?
No, there wasn't.
Seems like we missed that a little bit.
so, Mr. Chair,
Road signage is all fine as is, we may upgrade the signs, but what signage is missing in your mind?
Well, anything on the exterior, gate, doors 1, 2, 3.
Changing, yes, or something. We're trying to figure out what's missing.
I'm not sure what signage you're talking about. If you're talking about the logo and that type of stuff, we have to decide.
Wayfinding signs that could include the logo.
like when you're driving into the airport and it says, baggage claim, rental car return, or, entrance to the parking lot, the wayfinding.
And I'll just say that I'm sorry if it's misleading. We understand that, that Flint Group is leading the charge for the branding. Our effort is simply to find, opportunities, within the design that we have, and also working with Terry as well on the parking structure, and finding opportunities to share that branding. And that's just an aside of the overall wayfinding on the site that we would be looking at. So the reason I put it on there is I guess I got the impression that the board wanted to see us also coordinating that effort with all these others.
Mr. Chair, if I can speak. Brandon, we talked about transparency and communication when there was the snafu with not understanding that baggage claim was decided to be on the chopping block. At the AP meeting.
Yep.
And so, I'm on the marketing committee, and I do appreciate you adding me to this meeting at the last minute. But again, I'm just thinking, when we talked about including stakeholders and listening sessions, I'm disappointed that I wasn't initially included, and then when I asked for the presentation 4 times, that you didn't send it to me.
Yeah, Paula, I understand why you might be disappointed in that. The effort that we were putting together there, it's kind of like that was the internal team. It's kind of like when we have internal design charrettes. We talk about the product and putting it together. It's kind of like how the sausage is made. We're putting together what we think is what you're looking for, and we at least, I think from our perspective, we at least need some space to try to put that effort together. And normally we would talk about like the financial pieces of it, and it's an effort that I think you as the owner, it's more about what the content is and not what what the design is actually going to be and the final product. So, I mean, it was really just an internal effort. It wasn't meant to because some of the conversation that we would have may lead to confusion down the road on what we're putting in the scope. So we wanted to make sure that it was a final, complete document that you all would have at the same time be able to look at it and give your comments. The intent today is that we put this in front of you, take a look at it, and then the next between now and the next meeting, whether you want to funnel comments through Sean to let us know if there's additions or things you'd like us to change on this, or we can gather your comments at the next meeting, and that would give us further direction to put apply a number to this.
I was just, Brandon, we emailed back and forth 4 different times. I was just asking for the presentation that everybody else got to see on the meeting that I did not see because I was on my phone because I was looped into the meeting at the last minute. I just was asking for the same opportunity to see the documents that were presented at the meeting.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Paula. That meeting was meant to be, it really only had all our internal folks that had a stake in whether they would have to put a number towards this or not. That was the intent of the meeting. It wasn't intent to be a presentation to board members. So I'm sorry if that was misunderstood.
Just asking for transparency.
I would, from my perspective, I would say that it wouldn't be a proper place for a board member to be. It would be sort of like, being in a bid project with you not to figure out what that's gonna be, so don't disagree with Brandon in that regard, that the total project will be presented all at once to the board. That those are internal discussions where they're, working to put their project together.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Brendan, who was invited to the meeting?
That was, so like our interior designer, our planner, then we had Clear Channel, we had Indigo, Flint Group, Olin, I think that was it.
Sounds like we're paying all of you, right? In the meeting?
What's that?
Sounds like we're paying all of the people that were in the meeting?
I would be surprised if they charged that to your project. I mean, this is a marketing effort.
No,
So usually that's overhead?
We have some contractual or some monetary arrangement with everybody in the meeting, correct?
No.
Who didn't we have?
You don't have Olin on contract,
Okay.
No Indigo,
no Indigo.
Flint we do, Clear Channel we do.
But just the same, I would say, like, from our perspective, if we're asked to do an additional effort outside our current scope, we don't charge that to a project that we're currently under. It's a marketing effort for
Brandon, I'm not worried about whether we were charging that. I'm just trying to figure out the nature of the people in the meeting. The majority of them are vendors, contractors, have some sort of relationship with it. And while I agree, internally you should have all your meetings, but this sort of touched a little beyond that. you talked about open records, open meetings. I wonder why there wasn't, if Paula was invited to the meeting, why the material wouldn't have been shared with her.
Well, it was the invitation, Paula had asked to be part of this meeting.
Yep.
And so, we brought her on so she could listen in. But when, all I asked for was a couple days to put it together so it would be in a more presentable form to a board member. So
I guess the issue is,
Yep.
I'm just saying, if you're working on transparency, she was invited to join the meeting, she joined the meeting, she was on telephone instead of on Zoom, and she asked for the materials and you don't provide them, that's not being very transparent.
When
yeah,
everybody else,
okay.
when it was stated you stated during the meeting that you'd be emailing the materials to everybody that was on the meeting, so it just felt like there was a lack of transparency. And I know that we were working on communication.
Sorry for the misunderstanding.
And when you say that the reason you didn't send it to me was because I would have too many questions or it would be too confusing, that's not okay.
Okay.
Okay, so what do we want to do with this? Do you guys want to take a look at it and have more time to review it and give your comments?
Could we, I see that Flint is on. Do you have any comments on this? Kelsey or Madison or Jody?
I mean, I get where Brandon's going with this, and I think there's probably some details that still need to be worked through. And I think we're clear on what Flint's role is from this particular document, and I wasn't in the meeting, and maybe Kelsey has some insight from her perspective of being in the meeting.
Yeah, for me, it was mainly just an effort to get us all on the same page like the board had requested, doing a lot of just making sure branding was cohesive. Our team is working with Brandon's design team, just going through and seeing where there's opportunity to incorporate this new brand, which we are working with them, and you'll see in the next board meeting too, of different ways to incorporate the new logo into it. So really with this, I just saw it as a means of one central place that all of us can go to, and then the board can get one person presenting it instead of a bunch of different ones. But yeah, there weren't any concerns from my aspect. I thought it was good to get us all together and rowing in the same direction.
Okay, I'm gonna call that item.
I just have one.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair. With regard to the comments about open meetings, I mean, these are private entities that are putting together a package, so open meeting.
Apply to a private industry.
You know the delicate nature of this state. You need to represent the board on this also, not the country. But there is a crossover, and if Paula was invited, who else was invited? That's what I was asking. I understand private businesses, they can be private, do everything that they want, but this one just seems strange.
Well, the nature of that invitation, Paula had called and wanted to be a part of this meeting. I advised her what the meeting was about, and she insisted she wanted to be a part of the meeting. So I invited her. That's how it happened. And we had to we had to adjust our agenda to reflect who was going to be at that meeting.
Again, this has gone beyond the update and starting to get personal, so I'm gonna call a cease to item number 8. We'll go to item Item number 9, receive communications from Clear Channel.
Point of order. You can't call with an agenda item if you need a motion.
Point of order?
Yes.
Yes, I can. We've gone beyond the update and
I'm just
started
saying that you
getting
need a
personal.
motion to.
Item number 9, to receive communication from Clear Channel. Are they on?
Well, that is on.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Yeah, I'm certainly on. I submitted a letter to, in light of a meeting last month, I just sent a letter to Sean with Clear Channel's stance on what our contract says, both in terms of our ability to sell sponsorships, but also regarding our ability to sell into any new expanded space that may be created, born from our interpretation of the contract. And then as a follow-up, I had heard that there was concerns about the revenue share and displeasure with the 34% revenue share. And so I just sent a list of airports of comparable size, and I just kind of took a selection of airports, about 500,000 in passenger traffic above where Fargo is and below, to just show, and it was across the industry, not just Clear Channel airports, just to say the revenue share for an airport the size of Fargo is in line with the industry. Certainly I sent that, and happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Chairman, I understand how you responded to this, and I was probably a little offended by it. I don't understand the total agreement that we signed, but it's a 10-year lease agreement. And I think sometimes those things get overlooked and they just go through the normal course of business. The other in that agreement is an automatic 5-year extension unless either party gives a notice. So it's my intention to give you notice that we're not going to extend automatically on that lease. And I guess the other part of this agreement is, the bottom line for me is sponsorship. And we really haven't done sponsorship, but it seems to me that there's a huge opportunity to get sponsorship. And I understand there might be a little crossover with advertising, but when I view the sponsorship, I think there's a lot of community organizations here that would view it truly more as sponsoring rather than advertising. And so I guess from my perspective, in the contract, we also determine what space you have to lease or to advertise on and which ones you don't. And so I think from my perspective, I want to dig into that a little closer, but to me, it's really the sponsorship. And so I know you argued this among all airports all over the country, but I think the sponsorship money, I think it's important to have a local group help with that sponsorship. So more of a statement, Mr. Chairman, than anything else, but yeah.
Any further discussion?
I just wanted to you said that my letter was offensive to you, Mr. Berg?
Yes.
And what I want to just apologize. It's certainly not my intent to be offensive. We value our partnership with the Airport Authority. We want to have a good partnership with you, and we want to generate revenue both for the authority as well as for ourselves. And so if I was just trying to be clear and say, hey, here's where we stand, and that was my intent. And so certainly I apologize for any offense that was taken. I just wanted to.
Well, Mr. Chairman, so how many dollars of sponsorship does Clear Channel have now for the Hector Airport on an annual basis?
For sponsorship specifically?
Correct.
In terms of, I guess I'm not, in terms of actual sponsors for the 6 sponsorship opportunities that have been identified,
No,
be
I'm saying
$0.
in the past 3 years or the past 2 years, what sponsorships has Clear Channel established for Hector Airport that you're receiving a compensation for? I understand the advertising component I've seen on the.
Oh, on the sponsorship, as a sponsorship of an entity or place, none, off the top of my head.
So I guess to be clear, that's where my maybe offense was. If have the potential to look at other airports, there may be hundreds of thousands of dollars in sponsorship. I don't see those coming from Clear Channel. And so to say, yeah, automatically Clear Channel gets 60% of it, to me, that was a little bit arrogant and not understanding the opportunity that we see as a board to potentially leverage some of those great community partners we have that want to step up. So, again, that's.
Okay.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
would you be amenable, Mr. Burke, to making, would it be a possibility to say, let's halt any sponsorship movement with Clear Channel until we can clarify what we're comfortable with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think all this needs to be coordinated, but I think we need to have an understanding of Clear Channel.
Mr. Chairman, I guess, I've read the contract, but I will ask legal counsel to brief us on exit options under the contract. If they're the 5-year non-renewal, I think we can move to that very quickly, but if there are other exit options, what are the steps we need to take, and what are the risks and problems with that?
So I would start by saying the 10-year contract was signed, I think even maybe by you as chair 2 years ago. And I think when I analyzed this back in February, I think I sent a memo. It's clear that the word sponsorship is not explicitly stated. Okay, then I go in and analyze the language, and we have the exclusivity provision that they have exclusive rights to the airport. And then you do have the specific exclusions, like the NDSU, et cetera, where they don't have the right to advertise. So the word sponsorship doesn't appear, but when you read the exclusivity provision with the exclusions, I understand the argument. So I would appreciate if we could kind of really dig into this. And one of the things, I don't know if you wanted to talk about the letter that we sent, that must be in the packet, where it requested, proposals on what that could be suggested and how that would be different from the terms of the contract in terms of what they would get paid, like a one-time fee or something like that. So I guess representing the board, I would kind of like to really get through this and have the analysis. They could potentially bring up a breach of contract based on the exclusivity clause. Our argument would be sponsorship isn't defined, so it's not black and white.
I think that, Mr. Chair, I think that we risk the really clear, it's a risk that when we go to community partners and people who wanna partner with the airport to do, whether it's, we're gonna have a beautiful playroom with more services for kids, or it's a nursing room, or it's a, whatever the sponsorship opportunity might be, or art. I think if you've got a company that says, we wanna make a donation of, for instance, $300,000 to art, and $200,000 goes to their channel, that I don't know how the community or potential donors or, people that want to invest in the airport would feel about that. It feels too steep.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustrating. I mean, I think unless we take some action, we've got unclear interpretations here, and this thing will just carry on. So, I mean, we talked about a different structure for sponsorships and things like that. I'm assuming Clear Channel is open for other things as well. I'm not sure, but I think our motion would be, not to pay Clear Channel for sponsorships. And, if they feel they should be entitled to that, does that put the burden on them to prove why they're entitled to it? I guess I'm asking you, as an attorney, how do we use to solution?
So I think that's what Thaddeus has done with his June 10, 2024 letter, if you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think sort of the middle ground that I was trying to do is, you're not happy with the percentage, as you just said. Is there a middle ground where the board and Clear Channel could come to a separate agreement as to sponsorships so that we don't risk being in trouble with the exclusivity provision? So that was sort of the path I was looking at, if there was some sort of happy medium.
What do most airports charge for sponsorship?
That I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, it's hard to negotiate, we don't know. I mean,
Well, the other issue to it is the expansion laws, that everything just opens up, and anything new added on to the report becomes part of the contract. It does address that, but it is most likely an oversight on our part to extend without having discussion. One airport that is missing in your list is Sioux Falls, and what's their percentage?
I don't recall offhand what the percentage is. I do know they are putting, and they've just put an RFP out onto the streets to have an advertising concessionaire proposed, and their mandatory pre-proposal meeting is happening today, as a matter of fact. So they're going through this process right now to determine. They said their minimum percent revenue share was 35% in their RFP is what they're asking for. And so it's out on the streets right now.
I believe they've got currently Media One and they get 50% currently.
Okay,
On
well,
their
they're,
T's and screens, but I couldn't speak to their sponsorship agreements.
Discussion. Any
So-
further discussion?
We kind of talked about a couple different motions, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Where are we?
yeah, there was discussion about, is the board talking amongst yourselves in terms of what are we going to do about sponsorship and get back to Clear Channel? Or are we to work this out together where I come out? Our intent is to work together to a mutually beneficial solution. We do not want to be adversarial. We want to work through this, and that is the approach that we're taking with the board.
But as I understand it was said that if we get a sponsorship, the board gets a sponsorship or somebody else does, Clear Channel gets 60% of it? 66% of it? That's a little steep.
Last board meeting, Stacy Alfred went to Thaddeus just a few days ago, talking about sponsorships and the board's interpretation that the contract is silent on sponsorships. So when I talked with Dan at Sioux Falls, what they're doing in their RFP is proposing that Clear Channel gets their concession in Sioux Falls would consider a one-year revenue share for the first year only, or potentially a one-time flat fee for its sponsorship. So if it's a $10,000 donation over 3 years, 4 years, Clear Channel will get a percentage the first year to be determined, or a one-time flat fee for the sponsorship. That's how they're approaching it. And I thought that was a good idea.
Mr. Chairman, I think we probably had a really good discussion here. I don't know if we need a motion, but I think staff should follow Clear Channel and see what they propose on the sponsorship that's different than their contract was signed. And I think if we get that information back, we can make some decisions.
We requested a proposal from them for sponsorship, so hopefully that'll be ready by the July 9th meeting, that is, or
I'm going to make every effort to make that happen, absolutely, yeah. And if something should pop up, I will certainly communicate that, but that is the...
Mr. Chair, staff sent a letter proposing a one-time fee or a couple different options, and you already came back and said, no,
this was first.
this was first.
Got that just before the last board meeting, it wasn't on the agenda, so it wasn't distributed, so.
Okay, I just didn't wanna you know, redo something that we've already done.
The ball is in our court right now to respond to a letter we have received from Sean last week, or a week or maybe a week and a half ago. So we are going to respond to Sean's letter.
Okay, any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
Mr. Cosgrove, you also made a motion about looking at.
Yeah, I would just like to direct Stacy to, if we decide we want to remove ourselves from the contract, what do we need to do and what's our risk in that? If we just want to stop this, go back and look at something else, we're going to.
And just a request for the attorney to dig into it?
What would we do if we want to cancel the contract at this point?
Because we've been talking about this for a while, so, I mean, I think we need a clear directive. Is that a motion?
Well, I don't know that it needs to be a motion, it's a request for the, for attorney to.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I've looked at staff to bring a recommendation that fits what we're talking about here. You know, apart from that, I mean, I think we don't have a proposal from Clear Channel. They said they're open to some different things. I think we need to hear from them on that. I think, I don't think from what we've heard that they want to have a legal battle over the contract. But there's, you know, we need to know what our position is. And so I think, you know, basically this is a contract that relates in a business sense. I mean, they're making money off advertising here. We're making money off them coordinating that advertising. We have control to determine how many screens we have and what we do. I mean, it's got to be a working relationship. So I guess I would say that we don't really have anything to make a motion on right now until we hear back from them. Okay. I mean,
That's what I would.
When I think that,
but I would encourage when we get that information out, let's get it off the board ahead of time so we have an opportunity to think about it prior to our meeting.
yeah, this is the net to the airport, so like 40,000.
Yeah.
This is not a big dollar item in the revenue to the airport.
Well, for either side.
Yeah, so a lot of attorneys going back and forth don't make any sense on this.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, then we'll go to number 10, receive update from Eaton Hunt again regarding preliminary site options for possible hotel.
Good
morning. Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Very good. Let me, tell me if you can see my screen. It should say Hector International Airport,
Yep.
initial hotel. Very good. Well, I appreciate you for the opportunity to talk to you today. There was a question a few weeks back about what it would look like for a hotel on the airport, and specifically referencing kind of a trip that was back in a few weeks ago down to Sioux Falls. So what we did is just kind of quick put together a light review. And when we look at building on an airport, a lot of different things go on that people may not be aware of. So in our quick review, things we looked at is impacts to the airside, which would include your instrument approach procedures, your impact to the radar. Air traffic control has a responsibility to see all movement areas. So we need to look at what that visibility would be for the air traffic control. Navigational aids have critical areas, reflection properties of different buildings can create problems. One of the latest things going on with FAA is referred to as a radio line of sight and how it impacts airport communications. So those are things on the airfield we looked at. Land side we looked at, wanting to make sure whatever we looked at just had some simple ability to be flexible for the expansion of the terminal. Last thing we want to do is give you some ideas that would not, or that would limit your terminal expansion in the future. We'll also look at just kind of how much space, parking spaces you'd lose and things like that. So as we went through this, just some of the quick things we did for assumptions. We did use the terminal or the hotel at Sioux Falls for size. And so if you see that, you'll see a little further down the road as well. That's what it looks like to those of you that did not make the Sioux Falls trip. It's roughly 180 feet by 60 feet with a height of 45 feet. Sioux Falls is connected to the terminal. And one of the things on Sioux Falls, and I was involved back in the day, they have a lot of ticket counter space. So they still maintain quite a bit of flexibility with putting that terminal or the hotel next to the terminal. Other things we looked at is the airspace and what has been done previously. So just recently with the terminal project and the parking garage project, we had two major airspaces, and those are processes where we submit the plans to the FAA. They review it for impacts. Our assumption is that they were accurate in their reviews. And the reason you go, that's a weird assumption, Tom. I can tell you, having done this for 30 some years, the amount of times the FAA has commented that it was no impact and later came back with another comment that it was an impact. It is quite often. So we're just making some of those assumptions. Also, our assumption is we're not considering any temporary impacts. It's like when you put up a building like this, you would have cranes that would have temporary impacts as well. As we went through that, sites that we looked at for consideration, everything we looked at, as our understanding from the board, was that you wanted things that were close enough that we could connect, and these don't necessarily show it, but that we could connect, I refer to them as a gerbil tube, but a covered walkway or some kind of connection to the terminal so that people accessing them could be kept inside climate controlled or to the best of our ability climate controlled. So we looked at both sides of the existing terminal. We also looked at an opportunity where with the parking garage and the connectivity to the parking garage to the terminal, we thought there may be some additional options there and that you could align that either north-south or east-west. So we considered those in our options. Having said that, when we looked at the airspace issues, you have localizers on both ends. We have a radar, air traffic control tower, communications facilities at both the control tower and facility across the field by the guard. So those were looked at. We're clear of all approach surfaces for all the sites. We do not anticipate any of the sites having an effect on the instrument approach procedures. So all those are viable. This right here in the top left is a little bit of view from the radar platform and what that would look like. A little bit of concern I have is I'm not sure if FAA will have a concern that a hotel and or the parking garage would be shielding any operations on your crosswind runway. Like I said earlier, the airspace case for that parking garage did not identify anything of these issues. So we're comfortable at this point saying, if they're consistent, we're good there. Bottom left is kind of just a quick mock lookup of what the control tower would see with the terminal right in the middle of the page, and then the hotel in the middle of the page. To the right is the new terminal layout. And the terminal apron is not classified as a movement area, so they don't need to see that full apron, but they do need to see the taxiways coming to and from. And in this case, all options would be fine. We did, and we'll make this report available to everybody as well. Just as a cursory review, we looked at all the different sites. The big difference on all of these is just how much parking they would take up. There's some flexibility on site one that if you put this along the way to allow expansion of your baggage carousels, you'd have some constraints long-term there, and we'd work on site one if and when you had an alternative to look at what a future expansion of the terminal was and how to harmonize those two together. But the access in and out of the terminal or the rental cars would ultimately have to change. They'd have to end up coming in a different route, and we'd end up moving those parking lots. Site 3, you guys have spent a lot of time and energy looking at how your terminal looks and feels as you approach the terminal. Site 3 would obviously give a different look to that. So if you were going to use Site 3 down the road, we just want to make sure that you harmonize it to make sure that the aesthetics of the terminal and the hotel align and look cohesive, as I know you talked a lot about that today on other issues, is making sure it didn't look like an afterthought. Site 3 isn't way to the right, because for the terminal to get into it, you'd have to connect into the main part. These other sides over here don't have a direct access. So we'd want to get it a little closer to the main so that we keep the walking distance to a reasonable level. Sites 2, like I said, could be aligned either direction. It would utilize the covered area of the parking garage, and then ultimately could use the Skyway, or you could walk across. It would give you both options. But I do agree with your guys' general premise that the viability of these makes it much, much more advantageous if you have connectivity of some level, so you get up in the morning and you're not going through a winter environment and freezing to death. Having said that, I know I went through this very quickly. I just wanted to give you what those were and what we looked at. Any questions?
Questions?
Well, Mr. Chairman, so Tom, unfortunately, it probably weren't as clear when we finished, but A, it's gotta be connected. So your number 3 or number 2 is really not an option. And so I think with site 1, you know, that doesn't look connected to me. And so I guess I'm, you know.
Excuse me, Mr. Berg. These all would have the ability to connect a walkway. So just like Sioux Falls is, its walkway is a certain, you know, theirs I think is only 20, 30 feet. The walkway on these, like for site 1, would have a 150-foot walkway connected. I just didn't put the connections in there. I just, depending on how you wanted it, you could come up to the front or you could put a door on the side. Same with site 3, you could come in and do connections. Site 2, you are correct. You would have to walk through the parking garage and then through the Skyway. That's your only connection.
So again, Mr. Chair, we're just looking for the best recommended site. And so again, I don't want to waste a lot of time on this, but the issue is really future expansion too of the terminal. We don't want to impede that. So I think from my perspective, I'd like you to look at site 1 and site 3 and come back with the recommendation. I mean, this is a high level thing. I think the next step is once we know that it's viable, then the next step would do an RFP to see if there's anyone interested in doing something like this, which we don't know. So again, there's a lot of detail that needs to be fleshed out, but I think we need to, you know, find out what 10,000 square foot site is best.
Okay, we will take a look at that and give you some of what that would look like and some renderings with connectivity and things like that. Size-wise, do you have a preference on size? Because all of those change, or are you comfortable with the sizes shown?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've got a model in Sioux Falls that work. I would say use the same model, and if people are interested in more or less, you know, that might be of interest. I think the issue in site 1 would be the height, whether, you know, Sioux Falls, again, I can't speak to that. I guess, you know, typically you say what's the maximum building you could build there, but we're really unlimited because we have a lot of space. So I would say let's just follow the exact dimensions of Sioux Falls.
Okay, and that's what's in those right now. We can show some connectivity. You would have, obviously that would be a big disruption for your rental car. So we could, you know, those are the trade-offs as we could get into. Is that something, if you're looking at an RFP, do we want to put together some kind of a scope where we're bringing in the rental car companies and the airport staff and yourselves to talk about, because there is some pretty significant trade-offs when you look at the walk out to the rental cars. That would have a notable impact. Site 3, same thing, is you would be losing employee parking, and then the aesthetics of that would just have to be mirrored or matched up with your existing building structure.
Mr. Chair, and Tom, just to follow up on Rick's or Mr. Berg's comment on site 2, did you work or visit with Terry Stroh on where the parking garage plan B, like the second phase would be? Is that like that would be one more concern about site 2?
We did not. We just looked at what sites are even viable. If we could, our goal was to see if even you could build on the south side of this. We can work with Terry and bring everybody in together and look at what that would look like. Again, it does have the negative portion of it where you are walking through a parking garage. So it sounds like from Mr. Berg that that's not something you guys wanted to consider, and I'm okay with that. It's just, we were just trying to give you a wide range of options, what we looked at.
You're looking for a recommendation between 1 and 3. Right?
Yeah, I mean, this is just a high level thing. If we need 10,000 square feet, then let's go out and reach out to someone and see if someone's interested in it. I mean, I think the bigger picture here is we want to capture more and more people from a larger area from around Fargo. And so the idea in Sioux Falls, if people start driving from further away to stay overnight in Fargo, catch an early flight out, and that's good for the airport, that's good for business. And I think we have to coordinate with all the vendors, but I think the vendors would be supportive of things we're doing to grow the airport and grow the passengers. So.
Mr. Bashani.
And I'm all for this if it's workable and we can find a vendor. I just wanna throw out the caution of site number 1, 20 or 40 years from now, if we went to put a similar addition on that into the terminal, is this an easy thing to locate because there's nothing in the way right now, and 40 years from now, it's in the way of an extension of the terminal?
Well, Mr. Chairman, that's a great question, is where is the next expansion of the terminal? My understanding that it would be going directly to the north, out that way. So we should, I think we've done that, it'd be good for us to see where that next expansion is. And my understanding is that's where we would have expanded, but then we'd have to close down 2 gates during the construction, and so that's why they ended up going east. And Mead and Hunt, you're involved in that, so maybe that would be good for us to see what the future expansion is for another 5 gates, where they're gonna go.
Okay, because I think you're exactly right, is as you get into this and you look at the future, you got 2 different things going on in addition to the hotel. You're looking at the airfield expansion, the terminal expansion, and what that ultimately looks like, and recognizing that what is originally planned sometimes changes, just like you mentioned, Rick, where the initial expansion showed the concourse getting pushed out and said it ended up going to the east. We can look and put together something that would tie in a terminal expansion analysis, how that would interface with the hotel, and then after what we've looked at in the airspace and all the other issues, I think we're comfortable that Site 1 definitely doesn't have as many constraints. We can go through and outline those in great detail. We'll put together a plan to do that. That's going to take a little more effort because the future terminal planning will be a little more complex than just a cursory review of these things. So we'll work with Sean coming in now.
Well, Mr. Chairman, you would already have a terminal expansion plan beyond this?
It's in the master plan, yes.
On the master plan.
Right, so I think that's what we're asking to see, Tom, not that you need to redo that.
Okay. We will just provide you the extra expansion on that and go the assumption that that is the future, but we can do that. Okay. We'll add that, we'll do the overlays on that and look at what we can do for what a reroute of, because your traffic here would end up being rerouted. This entrance to the rental car would have to go and change. And either one of these locations changes your availability of parking, but I don't think those are things that can't be overcome.
Mr. Chair, Tom, just one quick idea. If you bump the Site 1 up to the terminal so it was connected, you could do a walkway to like a covered, like an enclosed walkway along the side of the structure for passengers to get to the rental car area. So then you take, you give people a heated enclosed walkway, and now it's not an issue anymore for accessibility to the rental car parking lot.
Yeah, Site 1, the concern we have is butting Site 1 up against, it is not inconceivable in the next 20 to 30 years that you would want another baggage carousel for incoming bags. So we wanted to leave enough setback to allow that. And so that's why the distance off of here was a little different. We would have, just what you're talking about, Paul, is a covered walkway to this building. We could go in and create something that comes around. So I'll look at the access of that. We just need to talk with the rental car agencies as to when we impact this parking lot to this extent, what would be the next long-term alternative for them, recognizing their buildings right here. If we looked at expanding outward, do we need to worry about jet blast and putting up jet blast fences and things like that so that they don't get a bunch of rock chips and things of that nature?
Okay.
Anything further, any more discussion? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Number 11, receive update, Mead and Hunt regarding the North GA apron expansion and perimeter road project. Jeff?
I'll keep this real quick. So the last major piece of this project from last year carried over to this year's reconstruction of this East River Road. It's about a mile and a half long. They started it yesterday, so a little later than anticipated, but it's obviously been better than normal. So hopefully, there's probably about $2.2 million left to build under that contract, and that is covered by a FAP grant. So their goal, I don't know if they'll get there, but their goal is to have it done by the time of the air show at the end of July. Any questions on that?
Questions, discussion?
I just add one comment. So what happened here is, we should have a newer picture, but this has all been developed up here. There's a number of other hangars there. So there was a notice sent out last week that this was going to be closed for 3 weeks. And so everyone up here was like, couldn't get to or from the runway. And I just thought that was really poor communication on our part to give them that notice that 10 days from now, you can't use these hangars for 3 weeks. And that was modified to say you need to move out Monday. And I think we just need to do a better job of communicating, because they are one of our main customers, so.
Correct, yeah, obviously there's a single access point in and out, and people need access to their hangars. I mean, it certainly is a challenge in that Darren and I had worked through that to come up with a revised plan, issuing a NOTA. Basically where they have, the pilots just have to call the contractor superintendent, basically an hour before they have to access the site, so the contractor can get people with their equipment moved out of the way, the taxiway swept up, kind of thing.
We should have made it more clear. I mean, it's kind of like, you have NOTAMs daily may change, but PPR is required. I mean, if someone's planning a flight 2 days from now, they're not quite sure what that is. So again, I don't want to dwell on that, we have to do a better job of communicating with these.
Yep, understood.
I mean, we are issuing NOTAMs 3 days in advance, but we had yesterday a pilot didn't check NOTAMs.
Well, they don't, I mean.
But you have to.
I'm just speaking from our standpoint, we need to be a better landlord to them. And I think we responded because this worked out for improvement. And again, not everyone is a pilot. Not
Should have been
everyone
done last
checks their renewal. I totally agree, but.
Okay.
I mean, I think you're back from the majority of the tenants up there, they were fine with it. Actually, the original plan, it was only really 2 people that had issues that I heard from.
Yeah.
Otherwise, everybody else said, that's fine. You know, Danny Schatz too, I fueled her, but you know, I'll make accommodations, so.
Well, yeah, we can talk about this later, it's just.
Okay. Number 12, receive communication from West Winds Condo Association regarding hangar improvement plan and a 5-year extension.
Communication from Jim Blatsky, who's a member of the World Condo Association. This is a hangar that was built in the 1970s. It's in need of some significant external upgrade. They have recognized that as an association. We're moving forward with re-signing and doing some improvements to that T hangar by the end of this year. So they requested a 5-year ground lease. Request your approval.
I move we approve.
Motion's been made to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion.
The only thing that concerned me is they were asking that the airport authority help them get tenants to agree. That doesn't seem to be our goal. That they have their condo association, they're having internal squabbles. We don't want to be in the middle of that, telling somebody they have to pay their condo fees or their assessment. To me, that was a red flag, that's not the proper role for us. We have a lease agreement with the condo association, and the condo association needs that lease, and meets all the terms. That we don't want to be individually going in and trying to work within their organization, so I would just make that clear that
it seems like we're sort of making that contingent on the request for 5 years. Amend your motion to make that, letter.
Well, I think the motion would really allow them to extend it at least for 5 years.
Yeah, that's it. 5 years, so
Yes.
it's kind of reflecting the communication, but I think you should make a statement that the airport authority will not be responsible for the internal enforcement of their.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, what's your position on that?
We don't want to get involved in that.
I mean,
That's their problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think,
They want us to shut off their access, so they can't get to their air until the day, and that we can't do. We won't.
again, I think we keep silent on that. I mean, it's not our role to comment about it, right?
This recording's enough to. It's gonna.
Okay. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Number 13, receive communication from Terragon regarding proposed materials testing and special inspection services associated with the passenger terminal expansion and modification project.
So McGough has reviewed this as part of the airport's responsibilities for the project and quality control testing. I recommend your approval of the contract.
Is there a motion? Is there a motion?
So move.
Motion has been made, is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign, motion carried. 14, receive update from Meaton Hunt regarding trash compactor acquisition.
Jeff and Darren have been working on this for months. One of the things that we have to do, I think McGough has in their scope the concrete pad for this, but we've been looking at solutions for the trash. Right now we have the individual dumpsters, they're placed temporarily inside the fence of the city halls each day when they come in to dump those. This is looking at a compactor. They recommended to us that maybe they'd only come once every 10 days or so to dump. It's kind of a streamlined way to handle the garbage for the airport going forward. So what we look for today is the approval to purchase the trash compactor, which has been part of the scope of what we're doing with the terminal. And then Jeff and Darren will work on the exact location for that. But it'll be someplace on the east side of the terminal. It could be on the existing apron or building a separate pad for it, which, like I say, is already in the off scope of work. If you guys have anything to add, you guys have spent a lot of time on this with the contractor. It is a Sourcewell price.
And we've had it too easy for a number of years with the garbage right outside the door, but that's gonna change now, so.
Is there a motion to acquire a trash compactor?
So move.
Motion's been made, is there a second?
Second.
Motion been made, seconded, roll call please.
Prashant?
Yes.
Bird?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 15, discuss airport authority member slash airport staff public display concept.
Yeah,
Dr. Prashant.
I think this is kind of no-brainer, but it's important for us to all be on the same page. Or no, we're not all on the same page. I was really pleased by everyone very quickly responding positively. I think the identifying the board members and the executive director for that matter, publicly puts a face on the airport, it's not just a building anymore. And I think a number of us will be recognizable faces to a lot of people. That'll be comforting and I think send a very positive message. But it also provides a great avenue for feedback, and the feedback's the parties want to make sure we're all in agreement. There are going to be people that use it because they know one of us. I think most people are going to use it because they don't know who to email. And more often not that being the case, my recommendation would be that Sean exclusively is the one that responds to feedback, so we don't risk I say something and Rick says something and Paula says something, and it's not the same thing, and even worse if it's not accurate. I'm not trying to have anybody be left out, but if we do more than one person responding, we're gonna get in trouble sooner or later, and so I just wanted to make sure we're all on the same page on that, that's acceptable. As the staff go about producing this thing, that we're under the understanding. If we get one, Dean might say, I've referred your question to the executive director, but I'm not gonna try to answer things. I think that would be headed down that path. Any concerns with that?
No, I like the idea that you acknowledge it.
Yeah.
And then we just have to make sure there's follow-up.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
Very good. Paul?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Mr. Bashani, is your vision?
Make it all work.
Is your president, is your vision for the staff public display concept, is that also, say like a little bit more information on the website or some sort of visibility in the airport terminal?
Absolutely, and in my mind's eye, and I haven't talked to the staff at all, this would not be what you typically see in an airport, which is a poster on a jetway heading somewhere that nobody stops and really looks at. My thought is it would be something movable, find a place where people are milling around and looking. Probably strikes me in the luggage areas where people are standing around milling and are honked off about something if they want to give negative feedback or positive feedback. So it'd be something like that, but also on the website, I think that should be part of it.
It could be like a, like a welcome. Yeah. Welcome.
Very positively spin.
So on other airport websites, I often see board members like a picture and then a little bit of their background, that, what they're bringing to the table as far as experience, and then the committees that they participate on.
And on the website, I would think we could do that easily on a
On the
poster.
on the website.
Yeah.
So just a little bit more.
Great feedback.
Yeah.
I was thinking statues.
Yes.
Bronze?
I've been practicing my pose. Thank you, Paul.
We can 3D print it in about an hour.
Yeah.
And with board members, if you're comfortable, I'll take the time and effort to work with staff on getting all that done. No reason for us not to.
See,
Good move.
Jim, just on follow, emails, did everybody get set up? Barbara or email?
I jumped right in and it didn't have the password or something in it. I had a really busy day.
Oh, okay, but it should be working.
I'm almost on it.
That's all I need is another email.
Thanks for delaying, put that sign right there.
You're gonna go.
Okay, 16, old business. That's a new one.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I put that on there, there's a lot of things that seem to get kind of dropped, and so when I put that on there, it's like hotel, governance, meeting, on coordinating all these things together. The only thing we haven't covered really would be the economic impact. We talked about us creating economic impact for Hector Field that we can take to the legislature. And I think the other old business would be, what's our next step from the 2 mil requests that we had yesterday for the city? What's the next step there? I think
Next step is Mr. Rettlinger is gonna find a date for the airport authority and city commission get together for the Brown Day or some other time of day. I think that last year we've done that before, it's just a matter of finding a date when you're available.
I think the main thing there is that we get our information together, that we keep building what we presented 2 years ago. I think some of the stuff that I presented here would be helpful too. But then the economic impact, we need progress on that.
Well, Kyle Water did send us an email recommending that we take the study that was completed in 2015 and then update that because everybody knows there's more jobs here, there's more flights, there's more passengers. That would be the quickest thing that we need to update. Tom Chow and I have spoken about that. We've been working with Flint and Tom to take that study and then just explain in summary what's happened since that last work was done. The states will be done and then they'll tell us.
After the session.
I did reach out to Dean Mainzer, as part of over at NDSU, they're going to tell me something.
When do you expect to hear back on that? Well, I mean, we just leave this on old business then, or
Well,
something?
we'll try and get an update, Tom, I don't know if you have any ideas, but we'll try and get something by the second meeting in July.
One of the things I did want to point out, Rick, is that you may not be aware of is the Sioux Falls effort and the Rapid City effort both utilize those economic impact studies pretty heavily. And the reason we did that in South Dakota, the state government and the city government were not as, what I would say is in tune with the value of aviation as the state of North Dakota and the city of Fargo. And so one of the things that, and I'm curious of John's opinion is, we've had numerous meetings in the last month with the governor's staff, the leadership of the Senate, the leadership of the House, and the issue or value of the properties does not seem to be in question. And I guess my question is, we can certainly work with Kyle Warner to get this done as quick as possible. I know talking with Kyle, he doesn't see a way to easily expedite it. As Sean said, he kind of gave that recommendation. My question is, are we opening up a question that we don't want to have answered? Because there is a double-sided discussion with economic impact on these airports. And like I said, is the state of North Dakota and everybody we've spoken to, and this goes on for the last 5 years, North Dakota is a very progressive state and understands that value. South Dakota has not put any additional funding in aviation, and so we were trying to show them that economic impact. So I just wanted to let you know the context of Sioux Falls.
Well, Mr. Chairman, the goal is not to create anything negative, but clearly, you know, North Dakota policy makers are wiser than the South Dakota policy makers. There's no question about that. But I think what people say now and what they say in the middle of the legislative session are way different. And when we get into the appropriations process, I think we need to have in our back pocket some real specific things that show an impact multiples of what the state's putting in. We're asking for $40 million from the state, and I don't know if that's changed, but that's probably kind of rare to have done that. And so all I'm saying is we can't wander into that legislative session and just not have something that's solid besides just schmoozing each other and everyone feels good about it. So I don't know how we build that out, but when Kyle said they're doing it, you know, the most recent thing we have is 9 years old. I mean, let's figure out what, you know, and I can talk to some of those but what are the key points we need to build our argument around, and not just have off the shelf some higher or you know, airport authority summary, but really get into that deep. And I think to add to that, I think this is something that would help us last night at the city commission. I mean, they're gonna obviously keep challenging the 2 mills, and we need to have something that they have to refute that they can't. So again, I don't want to create any problems, but we got time now, let's build our arsenal.
Okay, we'll work with trying to find that blend. I can tell you we do have another client that did go out to do their own independent. It took them roughly a year as well. So I think what we're seeing is pretty consistent. Let's see if we can find a middle ground that gets you what you need, Rick, that can be done in the timeline in the next couple months, and then have something long-term where Director Warner will have the completed one for Fargo.
And be clear, it's not what I need, it's what we need for the legislature. So I may be wrong in what we need, but we should have those tools in place.
So, sounds good.
Anything other?
Mr. Chair, you knew. Okay, I'm gonna go back, when we talk about old business, I'm gonna go way back to, is Brandon still on?
Doesn't look like it.
I'm gonna go way back to September 27th of 2022, the public involvement meeting, when it was discussed, baggage claim back to the house. I'm wondering what an update on that. We discussed at the 9/27/22 public involvement meeting, we talked about a hybrid area and a partition wall for FIS, that would be for customs. And I know that we've discussed that customs agents are not going to be in the imminent future, in the next year or 2 or 3, but we're doing a 30 to 40 year expansion, and I think that we shouldn't overlook the possibility of doing a hybrid customs area that was discussed in that initial public involvement meeting by Big Hunt for customs that was to be located in Gate 5. Also at that meeting, we discussed a business lounge, and I think that it's not too late to still consider the possibility of getting a business lounge, just like they had told us back on September 27th of 2022. Another number that was thrown out was 550 employments per hour would be in our future, and how our restaurant food and beverage type of services would accommodate that type of traffic. And then the other thing that was discussed was that stakeholders and user groups would be involved in the listening sessions. And our airport website states the Economic Development Chamber and CVB. And I think that we should do a better job of including the stakeholders and user groups in our listening sessions. Because right now, when I've looked at a few, you know, who's there, it's mostly being Hunt. It's a lot of old business in one fell swoop.
Well, Customs, the administration, but even our former police chief was head of Customs at the time, they no longer do hybrids. It's a full standalone Customs building, so we have that documented that was presented to the board. So that's on Customs, but maybe at some point in the future, if there's money available, and FIS is 7-9 million, I think is what we looked at. There could be room for that in the future.
So I just saw yesterday the article on what Sioux Falls is potentially planning, and they included the FIS area.
Right. Yeah, we had until they said no longer will they support hybrids. The other thing is that the port director told us is that we would pay for 3 full-time customs agents year-round, even though we only need it seasonally. Well, it's a budget breaker.
Okay. It just popped up in my memory when I read the thing about Sioux Falls. And one other item would be the baggage claim, and we have beat a dead horse to death on baggage claim. But way back with our fly-through presentation on 8/15 of 23, Gina had said, and Brandon said they didn't have enough time to complete the baggage claim renderings. On September 15th of 23, it was stated that they'd be potentially wrapping columns in wood, soft seating, kid-friendly seating, biophilic elements, cohesive design, and that at that time, renderings were promised for November of 2023. Now, the latest rendering at my latest request for renderings of the baggage claim area, this is what was received. And I don't think this is adequate for baggage claim renderings for our cohesive design. This is just like a black and white sketch of what we currently have.
That's what they're probably gonna do sometime in 2025, because that area won't be touched until 2026. So I don't know, Brandon will have to give you an update on that, but that's my understanding.
And my comment is that I have emailed documentation saying it's coming in November, it's coming in December, we've been told that more complete baggage claim renderings were coming for a year now, almost a year. So I would just like to move that we get some, it's a part of the cohesive design of the whole terminal.
Jeff, do you want to take that as a note for Brandon?
Yeah, I'll talk to him after this meeting.
I'm sorry, this is what, I mean, when we ask for renderings, I don't consider this a very complete rendering.
Sure.
Anything other?
Mr. Chairman, Paula, restaurant and bar also, have we seen renderings? I mean, we've had discussions, we've had back and forth, Schlapsky and Cinnabon, I don't know what.
Dustin explained that at one of our meetings, that they won't start that process until sometime in 2025.
Well, and again, what's the space, what's the layout, what's the size, what's it look like? The last time we saw it was to a sketch of.
Restaurant update.
Well, and I think, Mr. Chairman, I think these things that Paul has brought up, I think we should make them part of our old business agenda for the next meeting. We don't have to solve them now, but the problem is they're just floating out there without a decision. And so I think we need to address these one way or the other, so we're done with them. So that
Clear.
What's that?
Clear.
Yeah, clear them off the table. So I just think that might be helpful with we do old business in our next meeting, you know, we itemize these that are not resolved. If there's some information that we receive between then and now, we can pull them off, but at least they're addressed.
Okay, well, thank you for your list, Mr. Chairman. The employee review governance issue, I know we got bogged down in open meetings and everything else, but that seems to still be that open item.
Yep.
And I'd like to see progress made. If we are doing governance, then we should be looking at employee reviews. If we're doing governance and employee reviews are part of it. Just so that we can keep moving forward. Facetiously, I'd say, under old business, we never did pick out the doorknobs.
Yeah, and when you talk about the employee reviews, I did some checking both with the county and the city of Fargo, and I asked about employee reviews. Employee reviews are done by the department head, and the city administrator does the reviews of the department heads. Commission has nothing to do with any of them. And same way with the county, with the exception of the county, the department heads do the employee reviews, and the county administrator does the department heads.
Well,
The commission has nothing to do.
Mr. Chairman, no, I'm not saying how to do it, I'm saying what's the system that we would put in place to do that. And, you're kind of jumping ahead to what it would be, we just can't get to a point of what are we gonna do about employee reviews as a part of governance. If it's an opinion, this board should review the executive team, executive director, and department heads to everything below that.
I disagree with that.
Well, Mr. Chairman, just to add, I think we're still progressing with the governance thing, and hopefully we'll have a recommendation here at the next meeting. And I think, you know, we have a lot of issues to kind of sort through. What's the role of the board member? I mean, I think this came out here that all of you really didn't want Paul involved in that meeting, and maybe she should have, maybe she shouldn't have. We should have a policy, so we know what those parameters are. So I think, you know, likewise, we need to have objectives and evaluations.
I mean, the role of the board is interaction with the top management.
Agreed, and the reason, Mr. Chair, the reason that, I mean, I brought a lot of those concepts to the board, so I was actively involved in a lot of those topics, which is why I thought it would be beneficial for me to be at the meeting. And so if that is a problem, then I should know about it, because I didn't feel that it wasn't within, you know, my role as a marketing committee member, and bringing several of those concepts like the art consultant or signage to the board. So that was my perspective.
Okay, anything else?
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn?
Move.
Second?
Second.
Adjourned.